I lost 50 pounds back in 2019. Here's what I got wrong, and if I had to start my journey again, here's what I'd do differently. Let me save you from making these mistakes too. Number 1, thinking that I had to exercise more to lose weight. Losing weight is about calories in versus calories out, right? So if you want to lose weight, it would help to exercise more so that you burn more calories. Yeah, well, that's what I thought too. So every time I wanted to lose weight, I'd hit the gym more, I'd run more. But that was causing me 2 problems. Problem number 1, it was making me hungrier. I'm someone that when I do a lot of extra cardio, the food noise gets noisier, and that makes it a lot harder to stay on track with my weight loss. Now, problem number 2 was I wasn't burning as many calories as I thought I was burning. Doing more exercise means you're burning more calories, yes, but it's never as many calories as you think. A typical gym session burns somewhere between 100 and 300 calories depending on body size and session intensity. That's just not that many calories. And yes, cardio will burn more, but it's just still not that many extra. So instead of doing more traditional exercises, what I actually needed to do was just more movement, like walking. This would help me increase something known as NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is just a fancy way of saying calories burnt outside of exercise, so walking to the shops, running your errands, fidgeting, stuff like that. Now, to make it practical, I'll put it into a habit like walking X steps per day, so just so that it makes it that bit more tangible for you. Which brings me on to mistake number 2. Focusing on my outputs and not tracking my habits. You measure your weight on the scales because you want to lose weight, right? And that's a fine thing to do, but it's just not that helpful. And to understand why, you need to understand the circles of control. Everything in life will fall into one of these 3 circles. Your circle of control, your circle of influence, and your circle of awareness. Now, your circle of control is things that you directly have control over. You can control how many steps you do today, you can control how much water that you drink, you can control what you put from your plate to your mouth. You can control whether or not you hit that subscribe button because you want to see more health and fitness content like this. But everything that falls under this category is something that's within your control. Now, the circle of influence is everything that's within your influence but isn't quite in your control. You can't control your scale weight, but you can influence it through your actions. You can't control your cravings, but you can influence them. And finally, there's the circle of awareness. Now, this is everything that you don't have control over or any influence on. You can't control how fast somebody else loses weight. You can't control what the weather is like in January. You can't control how much Jenny from work talks about her latest trip to the slimming clubs and how it's been so successful. And everything in this circle is the circle of awareness. Now, the thing that I want you to put the most energy into is the circle of control. You can recognize the stuff that you influence, but ultimately we want to make sure that the majority of your energy is going into what you can control. This is what people mean when they say focus on your inputs over your outputs. Now, that doesn't mean that you ignore all of your outputs, but you just don't need to put the majority of your energy there. So if I was to do my weight loss journey again, I would focus what was in my control. Which brings me on to mistake number 3. Listening to Slimming Club Karen and only weighing myself once a week. If I could go back in time and do one thing differently in my weight loss journey, it would probably be this. When it comes to weight loss, you want to think like a scientist, and this is your experiment. That means you want to collect data. Now, when we only have one piece of data per week, we don't know whether we're on a high day, a low day, an in-betweeny day. So the data doesn't have any context to it. So we want to collect more data, which means weighing yourself more. The best time to weigh yourself is every single day, first thing in the morning, before you've eaten or drank anything, after you've whipped your kit off, and after you've been for a wee. Step on the scales and record that data somewhere, and you're going to start looking at the trend over time, not the number overnight. And if you can complement this with weekly measurements and progress photos, even better. More data means it's easier to spot a plateau. You can see common trends like when your period's due or you've eaten more salty food. And you're not psyching yourself out every Sunday morning worrying what the number's going to say. It makes it all a lot easier. And that brings me on to mistake number 4, panicking when you're in a plateau. Being in a plateau is a totally normal part of weight loss. When you lose weight, you become smaller, obviously, and that means that you cost fewer calories to exist. I like to think of it as though you're walking back from Tesco's with your big shopping bags in hand. You've got all the heavy stuff like your tins of beans and your milk. It's a hard walk, the bags are heavy, and it's costing a lot of effort. Now, let's say that your friend drives past and says, "I've got no room in the car for you, but I can take you shopping." They take the shopping off you and you continue your walk. That walk is now a lot easier, therefore it's going to burn fewer calories. Well, it's the same with weight loss. When you lose weight, it becomes easier to do those day-to-day activities. And if you don't update your calorie deficit, that means that deficit will be slowly eradicated and you'll end up in a plateau because you're at maintenance. So instead of panicking, just recognise that it's time to update your calories. You can recalculate them by using a calorie calculator. I've dropped the link to mine in the show notes. And speaking of a calorie deficit, that brings me on to mistake number 5. not thinking about the quality of what I was eating. To lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit, but it's a lot easier to stick to a calorie deficit if you're eating foods that keep you full, nourish your body, and you actually enjoy. The quality of your deficit matters. And here are 2 basic things to think about just to improve the quality here and now. Am I eating fruits/vegetables at every single meal? Am I eating a source of protein at every single meal? Do that and you'll be grand. Finally, mistake number 6 was focusing on perfection. Sometimes good enough is good enough. I thought that to lose weight, I had to be perfect. I was wrong. You have to be consistent. That means hitting your inputs or your habits at least 80% of the time. And the rest of the time, doing the next best thing. And when you do that, it also builds your confidence. You're still holding yourself to a high standard, but also proving that you don't need to be perfect. And you can still see huge changes even when you're not. Now that's it for this video, but if you want to keep hanging out, then I think you might like this video next.